Hello, everyone, and welcome back into another episode of Chop It Up. We have another banger for you guys this week, as it was a wild week of college football, some really good NFL games, even some MLB action. There was some very interesting games in postseason baseball. Hunt, let's talk about a game that we were not expecting to talk about on this show. We're going to get right into it. UCLA and Penn State. Last week we were talking about your Ducks picking up a big win over the Nittany Lions. Then James Franklin takes his crew over to the Rose Bowl with a capacity of about 12 people at this game, and they lose 42-37 to UCLA. No one saw it coming. UCLA hadn't led for a single second heading into this game, and somehow they hang up 42 on what was supposed to be a really good Nittany Lions defense. We'll let you give your analysis first.
Yeah, first off, as a Ducks fan, really sucks. Penn State sort of ruined our one big win for the year now. But overall, I think it just came down to execution and moments, right? I think Drew Aller actually played pretty well. Like, I don't think it fell, on his shoulders. This loss doesn't. But I think James Franklin and the rest of the coaching staff really, didn't come in with a great game plan. I'm sure the players were, a little banged up and not feeling their best after that loss against Oregon last week. But, I mean, letting the clock run out at the end of the second half, poor play calls, in third and shorts and fourth and shorts. I think it really comes down to the coaching staff at the end of the day this week. Yeah,
I agree. I think last week, kind of the moral of the story was Aller wasn't good enough, the offense wasn't good enough. And then this week is on James Franklin. You as a head coach, you have to be able to get your guys ready to rock and roll. It doesn't matter who you're playing. I get it. It was a very emotional game against Oregon. It was a heartbreaker. You lose it in front of your home fans at the whiteout. But you have to respond. Good teams, championship teams, are able to respond after things don't go their way. And Penn State clearly didn't do that. They had errors on offense. They had errors on defense. And to me, for Penn State, it always just seems to come back to the same issues. It's leadership from coaching. It's inconsistent quarterback play. I know Aller was better in this game. But, still, this offense, especially at receiver, people coming into this year were saying Penn State's wide receivers have improved. They went and got guys in the portal, and it just doesn't really seem like they're doing enough still.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think, a lot of people put up or will look at that those 42 points that the Bruins put up. And I understand probably the defense didn't have their best day, but also a lot of that fell on the offensive shoulders. And sort of the game plan throughout. I'm just looking through the play-by-play right now. We have a turnover on downs in the second quarter, a fumble in the third quarter, another turnover on downs, and obviously they gave up that onside kick early in the game. And so I'm looking at that, and although UCLA did put up 42 points, their offense was clicking. Nico played well for them. I think it really, like I said, came down to situational football, right? And when the big moments hit, Penn State didn't execute, right? And the defense had to be on the field a lot more for that reason. And so I know that UCLA put up 42 points. It looks like a bad number. I really think the defense maybe didn't have their best day, but I don't think it falls on their shoulders either.
So let's hit on UCLA for a minute because this team, they've been a dumpster fire all year. Fired their coach. Their coordinators are gone. I believe it's Jerry Neuheisel is his name, Rick Neuheisel's kid. He was the offensive coordinator in this game, and he was a former quarterback at UCLA. You see him after the game being carried on the field by his players. Really cool moment there. If you're UCLA, is this a turning point in the season, or is this just a game that they somehow managed to pull out and win?
Well, I think things definitely went their way. I don't expect UCLA to completely turn it around and win a whole bunch more games. However, I do think it definitely gives them momentum, right? The players, I believe the coaches were all interim spots, the coordinators, the offensive
everyone's
coordinator, as well as the head coach. And so when you pull off a big win like that, I'm sure it gets the players fired up. They now want to play for their coaches, and I expect that they found some things in this game, and they'll be a tougher opponent in the future. As they work their way through the Big Ten. But that is a tough conference, and at the end of the day, after starting 0-4, they're not going to make much noise within the conference. But I do expect them to, pick it up a little bit after a big win like that.
You ready for your stat of the day?
Yeah.
Everyone, if you're listening to this, pay very close attention to what I'm about to say. I don't know if you can find it right there, but UCLA's interim head coach, I don't remember, Tim something.
Yeah.
He has the exact same amount of top 10 wins against Big Ten opponents as James Franklin in their career.
Yeah.
That is insane.
That is pretty
and
insane.
That's actually a perfect segue into what I want to talk about, because James Franklin, this was supposed to be their year. They were supposed to be Oregon. They were supposed to get past Ohio State. Very experienced teams, very talented. And now they see themselves at what, 3-2, 4-2, whatever it is.
3-2.
3-2. They still have Indiana. They still have Ohio State. They have the rest of Big Ten play in front of them. I don't think they're going to make the playoff for two reasons. One, I don't see them winning out. Two, if they do go 10-2, unless they make the Big Ten championship game somehow and win that, which I don't see happening, that's probably the worst loss out of any team that's going to be in the discussion for the college football playoff.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I guess my question is, if we see 8-4 Penn State, 7-5 Penn State at the end of the season, is James Franklin gone? Do you bring him back? Because, the reality is this Penn State athletic department, their fan base, they're already starting to kind of put a little microwave under James Franklin's seat, and now it seems like there might be a wildfire under his seat.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a tough call. Obviously right now we're talking about his poor performance in big games. At the end of the day, if you look at the landscape of college football, James Franklin is a good head coach. He has a good track record. He keeps Penn State in it. They weren't relevant, for quite a while there in the 2015 to 2000.
Well, they were relevant, just not on the football field.
Maybe relevant, but not on the football field. Anyway, so that's a tough one. He got them to where they are now, which is a lot better spot than they used to be. But now it's like the standard has raised, and they haven't necessarily been meeting that standard. It'll be interesting at the end of the year. I think it'll be a really tough call because, like I said, he's a good head football coach, but eventually you got to get over the hump, and we haven't seen that yet.
Last thing I'll say about Penn State for this season, looking at the schedule right now, back-to-back weeks on the road against Iowa and Ohio State. I know Iowa's not some great team, but that's not an easy place to play, no matter how good they are. And then that Maryland game towards the end of the season as well. Oh, no, excuse me, that's Nebraska, but still, that's not going to be an easy game. So they could legitimately lose, another 2 or 3 games this season, and it's not looking good. Happy Valley is not happy.
Yeah, for sure. I'm going to slightly disagree with you. If they made it to the Big Ten championship game somehow, which isn't going to happen, but somehow if they did, I think then they probably make it into the playoffs. But at the end of the day, looking at the schedule, I don't see any way they are going to. I think at Ohio State's a loss for sure. Indiana's tough, even though they're at home. And then, like you said, at Iowa, tough squad, good defense, really boring to watch on the offensive end, those Hawkeyes. But they played Indiana tough this weekend, and so I think the season is pretty much over for Penn State, at least according to the goals they had, entering the season.
Let's keep it moving. Let's get down to another team that struggled in big games this year, oddly enough. The Texas Longhorns, no longer in the AP top 25. 2 of the top 3 teams at the AP poll at the beginning of week 1 are now no longer ranked, Penn State and Texas. Texas loses in the swamp to Florida. This game was abysmal if you're a Longhorns fan. Arch Manning, I don't know what the stat line was. I caught the second half of the game on my way back from a cross-country meet, but man, he's just been brutal against Power 5 teams. He just hasn't looked good. When I was watching the game, they still had a chance. They cut it to 1 possession. They were in the game, and he's holding on to the ball too long. He's taking sacks. He's just missing guys downfield that are just blatantly wide open. They're showing replays. I think it was Ryan Clark, not Ryan Clark, but one of the guys calling the game, who just keeps talking about how he's missing guys. And as they're showing these replays, they're showing the entire route tree, and Arch is just not seeing dudes that are butt naked open. And now that's their second loss. Their backs are against the wall as well. What do you make? I know we talked about it a little bit before the show, but What do you make of Arch? What do you make of Texas? Obviously, Florida has a good defense, but overall, they're not a great team. What do you make of this?
Yeah, I was really surprised in this one. Obviously, Arch's play hasn't been up to the standard that was expected entering the season, but I think it's sort of bigger than that. Last year, obviously, Texas was a really good football team, but they were really built on big plays, right? They can run the ball, and they still can run the ball, right? They put up, I guess, only 52 this week, but I think 150 yards per game up to that point, more than 150 yards per game rushing. So they still move the ball, but those big plays that they were built on, right? That Sarkisian offense with a bunch of misdirection sets up the play action for those big shots down the field. They're not generating those. And largely because Arch is missing the throws, but I think there's got to be something else because this Texas offense should be clicking. They have the players to do it. The defense is playing fine. I know they gave up 29 against the Gators, but once again, right, they had to be on the field more often than they would have liked. So I think there's something just not clicking on the offensive end, and until they figure things out, I really don't see them a threat in the SEC. I think they're sort of it's a tough SEC conference, but realistically sort of towards the middle of the pack over there in the Southeast.
Yeah, I'm going to say something that I was talking to you about this morning, and I think when it comes to Arch Manning, I think he's very talented. I think he has a great football IQ. You've seen clips and you've seen snippets where he looks really, really good, and he's finding guys, and he's mobile, and he's staying strong in the pocket and all that good stuff. But it's one thing to sit behind a guy like Quinn Ewers and learn a system and learn things from him and be able to kind of develop intellectually. But it's another thing to have to go out there and do it. And so far, we just haven't seen Arch been able to put those things on the field because we know his football IQ is so high. And so I think for young quarterbacks, and I get it, Arch is now in his junior year, but to be on the field and seeing defenders live, and you're not in practice, and you're not, in practice you can't get sacked, you don't get touched.
Yeah.
It's not like that in a game. And so for him to be getting these reps live, I think it's just been kind of a smack in the face for him. And I know he played a little bit last year, but not against anyone significant. And so for him to start his career essentially on the road at Ohio State, one of the best defenses in the country. Then you go to the Swamp in Florida. Not a great team like we talked about, but that defense is still pretty elite. And so I think he just needs to still develop. I get it that, his last name's Manning and he is talented, but I think as college football fans, and we do this with guys all the time. We've done it with Julian Sayin. We've done it with other young quarterbacks where if they don't throw for 400 yards and 5 touchdowns week in, week out, then they're a bust. And I think the reality is you have to develop these quarterbacks, and Arch is still in that process of being developed.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think, I don't think you can give up. I think Arch Manning is still the future of Texas football, for this year, and I would guess next year as well.
He has to come back.
Right, exactly. And so my point is, as a Texas fan, if I was a Longhorns fan, even though, it's disappointing to be where you're at right now, I still think you got to have faith in Arch. I mean, he's got the tools. He's got a good coach. And at the end of the day, he's got 5 games as a starter this year under his belt. Obviously, he started a few last year, but like you were saying, against pretty much non-existent opponents. And he got in there a couple times, like against some bigger time opponents. But yeah, so I think the future's still bright. Like you're saying, these guys need in-game reps. So it's definitely not a curtain call for Arch Manning, but I don't think Texas is gonna get to where they expected to be this season.
Yeah, no, I agree. Let's move on. Let's stay in the SEC. Sorry about that. We experienced some technical difficulties, but let's pick it up. It's still in the SEC. Alabama, Vanderbilt, big win for the Tide. They get their get back on the Commodores after Vandy had been talking a lot of trash. Diego Pavia running his mouth. The Vanderbilt fan base running their mouth, which is just funny to me after how god-awful they've been forever. But, I mean, listen, this Alabama offense, and really just this team as a whole, tip of the cap. I bashed them after week 1. I was all out on Kalen DeBoer. I thought Ty Simpson might have been one of the worst quarterbacks in college football after what I saw against Florida State. And now I'm all in on them. I mean, they look really good. They're running the ball well. Ty Simpson is among one of the top runners for the Heisman, which is insane. And so this Alabama team looks really good. I think a lot of that goes to Kalen DeBoer and Ryan Grubb. We saw them together at Washington. Very explosive offense, very high-powered offense with Michael Penix and the boys. And now they're at Alabama, and I think they finally found their groove. They're running the ball effectively, and then that makes it a lot easier for this Alabama passing game because you open up things for Ty Simpson, and then he can get the ball to the guys like Ryan Williams, to guys like Jeremy Bernard and his playmakers. And now all of a sudden the tide has shifted, pun intended, for Alabama, and it seems like things are rolling now.
Yeah, I agree. I think things are clicking for this Alabama team. Like you were saying, I think a big difference is the ball's getting into playmakers' hands. We knew this Alabama squad had talent all over the field. But if you have talent, right, it doesn't matter much if the ball's not in their hands. Ty Simpson's playing very well, dishing the ball out, like I said, to those guys, those speedsters on the outside. So I think things are clicking for this Alabama team, and I think they're going to be really tough to beat in the SEC, as well as a tough out in the playoffs. I mean, I have a lot of faith in this team. After what I've seen, after that Florida State loss. And honestly, we shouldn't even bring that up at this point. I mean, I know it's a loss, but it's that week 1 loss. I don't think that is representative of this team in any way. So yeah, I expect the Crimson Tide to be a really good football team this year and a really tough out.
So 2 things. First, it doesn't get easier for Alabama. I don't know if you can scroll down there on their schedule a little bit, but it is brutal. I think they have Tennessee. They still have Auburn, maybe Oklahoma on there as well. It is your traditional SEC just bloodbath down the home stretch for Alabama. So they're going to have some tough ones left. Yeah, let's take a look at this for our listeners. They're on the road at Missouri, or they get Tennessee at home. Then they're back on the road to South Carolina. LSU and Oklahoma at home. Cupcake against Eastern Illinois. And then you wrap it up with the Iron Bowl, which is at Auburn. So it's not going to get easier for them. If you had to guess, how do you think the second half of SEC play goes for them?
Yeah, that's a tough guess. I mean, I think the SEC is just so dynamic, right? Like it's a guessing game always, it seems like. That being said, I honestly, from what I've seen thus far, I think Oklahoma without John Mateer, Alabama's a better squad than. So I would say that Alabama is a better team than all of the teams they have to face until the end of the regular season. But, coming in each week and performing, at the highest level is going to be really, really tough against these tough opponents. So I wouldn't be surprised, if they lost 2 more games. But I could also see them winning out. I think they're talented enough to win out. Is that my expectation? Not necessarily.
Right. Let's before we move on to the next one, let's hit on Vanderbilt for a second. Mm-hmm. There's a whole season still in front of them. Only one loss to what is now a really, really good team. They also have a tough stretch coming up. LSU, Missouri, Texas, Auburn, Kentucky, Tennessee. Maybe not as hard as Alabama, some very similar opponents on there as well. But you look at it, LSU doesn't seem to be the team people thought they were. Yeah. Missouri, very winnable game there, even though it will be tough. Vandy gets the Tigers at home. They go on the road to Texas. Texas also, we obviously talked about them for a bit. They don't look like the same team. So there's a world where Vanderbilt's still in the hunt for an SEC championship appearance. I could see them finishing the year 10-2. I mean, it's going to be tough. But, things are still looking up and up for Vandy.
Yeah, I think you have to be happy with where you're at, right? Look back to where they were 2 years ago, right? So I think Vanderbilt fans should be, hopeful. That being said, for them to, really make a push at the end of the season, I think it would take a couple upsets. I think even though they're at home against LSU and Missouri, I would consider definitely LSU being an upset victory if somehow they pull it off. Against Missouri at home, that's a relatively even matchup in my eyes. So I guess you could flip a coin with that one. At Texas obviously doesn't look great. I expect, in the next few weeks they will figure something out and be a tougher opponent for this Vanderbilt team. Auburn and Kentucky, right? I think Vanderbilt's probably better than both those teams. Tough wins, once again, like you were saying. And then I think at Tennessee is, I mean, that would be a miracle, right? If they win, that'd really, be a big turning point, or not turning point, but a, high point in their season. So realistically, I think this Vanderbilt team's a good team, but I expect them to lose 2, if not, 3 more games. But once again, I think that's a win for the Commodores, right?
Yeah.
Anyway, sorry, excuse me. So I think if they do end up dropping 2 more, I think you look back at the season and you say, hey, step in the right direction. But I don't expect them to make any serious push for the SEC championship, like you're saying. There's probably an outside chance, and definitely not for the playoffs. And that's just me.
Yeah, I might be a little bit more positive with them than you are, but I also agree, especially what we've talked about with the SEC. It's wide open. Anyone can beat anyone on any given weekend. Let's wrap it up with our final college football game of this past week. It was a battle in the Sunshine State. Miami pretty much handled Florida State. I know it was only a 6-point win. It was much more dominant than what the scoreboard reflected. Miami's legit, dude. I was hesitant to say that because they're in the ACC. They've had some good wins, but, Florida's not great. USF, I know they handled. USF, obviously, solid Power 5 opponent, but not to the same caliber of teams Miami's going to have to beat, to win a national championship. They are legit. Inside the trenches, they're one of the best teams in college football right now. Carson Beck looks to be back to his old self when he was a youngin' at Georgia. Their receivers on the outside are good. Their defense is good. Just everything about this team seems really, really impressive. And you look at Florida State, this was a team 2 weeks ago people were very high on, ranked inside the top 10, throttled Alabama. And now all of a sudden, they've lost the last 2 weeks in somewhat handed fashion. Virginia obviously wasn't upset, but, Miami controlled that game, like I said, and now, they're kind of behind the 8 ball a little bit. Let's start with Miami because I think there's more about them to draw away from this game than there is about Florida State. They're one of the best teams in college football, I think. Mm-hmm. I don't know if you agree, but that's how I feel about the Hurricanes right now.
Yeah, I think I would agree saying that they're one of the best teams in college football. This definitely comes with some bias, but just them being an ACC team, I do think there's like a tier that I haven't quite reached. Like I don't see the Hurricanes in the national championship this year. I could see them winning playoff games. I think the expectation now is to win out. The one thing that does play well for Miami in late January football is the trenches. Like you were saying, they are big up front on the offensive and defensive end. And that's super important. Obviously, they have a experienced quarterback, so that's another key. They have some weapons on the outside, but I'm still just hesitant. I think the schedule thus far hasn't been crazy. It's been all right. They played Florida, who just upset Texas. Obviously, Florida State this week beat South Florida, who I think, is okay. They're ranked in the top 25. They're probably a fringe top 25 team, in my opinion. So I think the expectations for the Hurricanes is probably to win some playoff games. I don't see them making it to the national championship, and obviously we're talking about this right now in October. But yeah, I guess I have a little bias.
Yeah, no, I don't think you're wrong. I think it's very hard for us to judge the ACC. Looking at their schedule, it looks like they're going to cakewalk their way to an ACC championship game.
Yeah.
We don't really know who they'll play. Could be Florida State, could be Virginia, who we watched this weekend against Louisville. Mm-hmm. They look like a very quality team. And so I think you're right, though. When you are in the ACC, there's some hesitancy to pull the trigger and say that a team is national championship quality. Very similar to, we're West Coast guys. Anytime there was someone coming out of the Pac-12 that we felt like was legit, there was national bias that maybe they weren't as good as we thought they were because they're not facing the SEC teams or they're not playing the Big Ten teams in the North, even though since these West Coast teams have joined these bigger conferences, they've, dare I say, dominated to an extent. Arizona State won the Big 12. Oregon won the Big 10. So if you don't like West Coast football, then suck it. So, yeah, I mean, I think Miami's a quality team. But here's the thing. We're going to have to see Cristobal win big games in December and into January. We haven't seen him do that yet. He is notorious for just kind of choking and not winning big games and just getting caught off guard. Last year, Miami at this time, very similar sense. Really good. Seemed like they had the Heisman and Cam Ward. Kind of just fell apart the last couple weeks. And so we're going to have to see Cristobal kind of piece together an entire season. And so far, we haven't seen him do that yet. I think that's one of the biggest things to come out of this game is that you're going to have to see Miami play well for 3 to 4 full months.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think that the difference between this year and last year's team, right, is the physicality. I think they have more talent. I don't expect the wheels to fall off like Cam Ward's team did, or like they did for Cam Ward's team last year. But what this Miami team like sort of strikes me as is those 4 seeds, back when Alabama and Georgia and Clemson were dominating, right? Those Notre Dames, those Oklahomas that were very, very good football squads. Like, don't get me wrong, but there's like another level to it. If Miami goes up against Ohio State, right? I think that's a tough game for Ohio State, but if I had to bet money on the game, right, I'm everything on Ohio State, right? Like I said, I just think there's levels to it. They strike me as one of those fringe teams for really competing for a national championship, but not quite there.
Yeah. I'm going to push back a little bit on that. The only reason I say that is because, it does seem like Ohio State is the number 1 team in the nation right now. They've proven that defensively. Offensively, they've been good. They haven't been, the Ohio State offenses that we've seen in the past, but they're also playing a redshirt freshman quarterback, so we need to be realistic with those expectations. I think what makes Miami so good is their defensive front. And so no matter who they play, whether it's in Oregon, whether it's in Ohio State, they're going to find a way to get to the quarterback one way or another, at bare minimum, make him uncomfortable, even if they're not sacking him. I mean, let's play hypothetical here for a minute. If we see Miami and Ohio State in January, semifinal, national championship, whatever, Julian's saying I see him having a very hard time against this Miami defensive front because of how dominant they've looked.
Yeah, and I understand that. My pushback would be late in the year, that's when those expert offensive coordinators go to work, right? And they're going to take advantage of everything that they can. And I'm not saying Miami's secondary isn't good. What I'm saying is when they face Chip Kelly in January, right? And he has his best stuff and they're scheming it up. I imagine they're going to put their players in a better position than the Miami staff will put their players in. Partially due to a discrepancy in talent, right? I think Miami is very talented. Do they have the recruits that, the Blue Bloods have? I want to be careful there because obviously Miami has some championships under their belt, but the Blue Bloods of, the last 10 years, right? And so I don't know. I'm a little more hesitant than you about
that's fair.
About this Hurricane squad.
Yeah, I think also, not to be just so you know, but Brian Hartline, that's the new Ohio State offensive coordinator, been the receivers coach forever.
Right.
Chips in Vegas now. I know you know that.
Excuse me. I was trying to reference like last year's trying to get back.
No. Yeah, we know ball here at Chop It Up. Don't be questioning.
Sorry, that was a poor reference, but I was essentially trying to get back to that Oregon game last year in the Rose Bowl, and obviously like up against Texas, right? Those are good staffs, talented teams, but these guys with all the talent, all these big time recruits, those Ohio States, I'm trying to think. Penn State, like what we thought, right?
Right.
Those coordinators are going to put something together at the end of the year, and it's going to be a tough win for Miami.
For sure. Once again, more technical difficulties, but that is going to wrap it up for our college football segment. We're going to move on, talk about the NFL a little bit. Hunter, for the first time in what seems like a long time, both of our teams picked up huge W's on Sunday. Cowboys beat the Jets, and my beloved Patriots went on the road to Buffalo in the frozen tundra. Sunday night prime time football and got a massive win on the road. Drake May led the boys to a dub. Pat's defense looked great. So what we're going to do is a quick little segment, anywhere from 30 seconds to a minute, preferably. No official clock, but try your best. And just give the case for why your team is going to make the playoffs. You can go first, and then I will follow. So your time starts whenever you want. Why the Dallas Cowboys will make the NFL playoffs this season.
All right. Well, I think it just comes down to the defensive end of the football, right? Or that sounded funny. Can we start my time over? All right.
Yeah, go again.
All right. It comes down to the defensive side of things for the Cowboys, right? As long as we can keep teams from putting up a ton of points and giving up big plays like we were early in the season, our offense is good. Stottenheimer's got some really good schemes. I mean, our offensive line is essentially the same as last year. Obviously, we picked up Tyler Booker, but like we were running the ball, Dak's playing well, so our offense can hang with anybody. So as long as the defense keeps things under control, which I don't know if I want to say they have in the past few weeks, but we got room to improve. We're heading in the right direction. As long as we do that, I don't see any reason why we can't make the playoffs. Yeah, that's my
good
justification.
Right. Okay, I'll follow right now. So Patriots, for starters, they're 3-2 already. They're 2-0 in the division. Their next 3 games consist of the Saints. Damn it!
You want to start your time over?
Yeah, I'm going to start over. I hate
our...
when I can't talk. All right. Ready, go. The Patriots will make the playoffs, and here's why. Their next 3 games consist of the New Orleans Saints, the Tennessee Titans, the Cleveland Browns. They're already 2-0 in the division. They will beat the Dolphins again. They're going to beat the Jets twice. Next time we get Buffalo, we get them at home. Drake May, he's taking great steps. He looks fantastic. The receiving core is coming together. The defense, in my opinion, one of the best defensive units in football as long as they stay healthy. And the biggest question is the offensive line. But here's the thing. They're only going to get better. We're starting 2 rookies on the left side of the line. And as this group continues to come together, you're going to see fewer penalties, which is going to lead to us scoring more points. And that's why the Patriots are going to make the playoffs. I'm not sure if that was 60 seconds or not, but that's how I feel. And I'm feeling good about the Pats, man.
I like how we both...
Can't
we're
talk.
really but also we're really faithful that our boys are going to come together. Mine being the defensive side of things, and yours being the offensive line. We have a lot of faith in that team chemistry.
Listen, dude, a lot of times,
our locker rooms.
A lot of times, football is about X's and O's. It's about tactics, schemes, strategy. But sometimes it's just about bringing the boys together.
It's about the skinnies and the Joes.
Yeah, I think you mean the Jimmies and the Joes.
The Jimmies and the Joes,
not the X's and the O's. Let's get out of here. But before we do that, it's time for your guys. Okay, all right. It's time for your guys' favorite segment of the week. It's time for our favorite segment. It's probably the audience's favorite segment this week because it's our final segment. Yeah. But it is time for Dude of the Week. Brought to you by no one because we don't have a sponsor yet. Hunt, you got to do some deep digging on the web. Might have been some ChatGPT involved, but we got there. Who is your dude of the week?
Well, after all this digging, I came up short. And then the answer hit me. It was obvious, right in front of me. The dude of the week has to be Cam Schlittler. Dude grew up in Massachusetts, right outside of Boston. Goes on, pitches for the Yankees against his hometown team. 24 years old, 12 Ks, shutout. 8 innings pitched. That's got to be dude of the week. I mean, come on.
Sent his hometown team packing. Now it looks like the Yankees are going to be packing as we're recording this. They're down 2-0 on the Jays. But, yeah, I mean, that's a iconic performance. That's something you dream of as a kid. Obviously, he probably wasn't dreaming about playing for the Yankees. But it's pretty funny. You see that. You've seen that a couple times in rivalries where kids grow up on one side. They end up playing for the, other rival, I guess you could say, and end up putting on an iconic performance. So we saw that with
You're trying to steal my dude of the week right now?
No, I was just adding my thoughts on that because I was watching the game.
That's my dude of the week.
All right. My dude of the week is
over there.
My guy. Hunter went with this college quarterback last weekend. I'm going to go with mine this weekend. Damon Williams.
Such a bad pick, by the way.
Led the boys on a major comeback in Turtletown, as I call it, College Park. Huskies were down 20-0 with 3 minutes to go in the third quarter. Final score, Maryland 20, Dogs 24. Big road win for Washington as they pick up their first road win in Big Ten play since joining the conference. Not an impressive stat, not what we love to see, but it's a sign that things are starting to turn around for Washington. DeMond had a couple touchdowns, and really, if you watched the game, which I know you didn't, but in the fourth quarter, you just saw a flip switch in his brain. He was running the ball much more effectively. He was throwing bombs downfield. He looked really, really good. Kind of the Husky offense that people have been waiting to see the last couple weeks. And so shout out to DeMond. They play Friday night against Rutgers, and it seems like hopefully we're starting to build some more momentum on the offensive end after a rough last couple of weeks. So that's my dude of the week.
All right. I think I got the win on this week.
We'll give you the win on that one.
All right, nice.
That is going to wrap it up for Chop It Up. As always, be sure to like the video, like on Spotify, wherever you're listening or watching. Drop a comment, drop a follow, share with your friends, share with your family, whoever. Please spread the love about Chop It Up as we are slowly going to get better at this. You're going to see production go up. You're going to see content go up. It's time to buy stock and Chop It Up right now, so we hope you do so this weekend. And we will catch you guys a little bit throughout the week. We'll have predictions coming to you on Friday. And then once again next week, we'll have another episode for you guys. So thanks for listening, and we will see you very soon.